Well, there you go, ladies and gentlemen. I did say it'd be a very quick break. There you go. So we move swiftly on now to our next session. And the next topic here at the India Global Forum at UAE is investing in a joint future and getting the money to flow. The UAE, by the way, is the largest investor in India, having invested $11 billion over the last 20 years. While investment by Indian companies into the UAE is thought to be over $85 billion. Well, in this next session, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a look at some of the strong synergies underpinning these ties and how also wider regional partnerships can also be brought in. It's a great pleasure to welcome our next set of guests. Please give a very warm welcome to Deepak Bagla, CEO and MD of Invest India, who joins us virtually. A very warm welcome to you. Thank you so much, Deepak Bagla. And next up, ladies and gentlemen, we have Dr. Bhaskar Dasgupta, Head of Market Infrastructure, Digital and VC FinTech at Abu Dhabi Global Market, who also joins us virtually. Well, gentlemen, thank you so much. Great to have you here with us. What would a 2021 forum be without having some virtual speakers, hey? So a very warm welcome to you both. Thank you so much. And as I mentioned, we're going to be talking about investing in a joint future, getting the money to flow. Deepak, I'd like to start off with you, if I may. Where do you feel that India needs investment then? And what sort of particular areas of India should sort of UAE funds be directed towards then as well?
Hi, Laura. Thank you. And first, I must congratulate you, IGF, for getting us all together. I think it's very timely, very critical, very important. And please convey my regards to Manoj, doing a great job of getting all these conversations going, which are so vital. Okay, coming on to what you asked. You know, I was hearing some of the sessions, I was listening into that, and we have Dr. Dasgupta. I'm sure he's going to add on to that one. But the first part, where does India require resources? Let me just give you a quick number. You know, we close our financial year on the 31st of March. So 31st of March this year, in the midst of the most unprecedented lockdown, India received highest ever FDI in its history, over $81 billion. But I'll tell you the reason why I tell you that, Laura, is because it came from over 89 countries and most interestingly, 63 sectors. So when you ask me, where is it which India requires? I've got 63 sectors which have already received this FDI. India is at an inflection point of one of its most interesting times in its history, and which is where every element of transformation is happening in India. In fact, it's one of the most unprecedented transformations in history, both in terms of the scale and the pace at which it is happening. And what it does is it has opened up an opportunity for partnership in each and every segment of my economy. So coming from there, and the UAE has been playing a very significant role. To put it in perspective, today my team itself, as we speak, is working on 318 business requests from the UAE itself. But most interestingly, it's across 24 sectors. And Laura, whenever we have time again after Mr. Dasgupta, I'll walk you through those sectors. The reason why I give you 24 sectors is to show you that there is a huge interest and an opportunity already which is being worked on by companies on both sides of the corridor. And these sectors are very diversified and they are very broad-based. So this relationship, when you were giving the initial numbers, I think those numbers are just the beginning of a story, which is now just going to unfold itself as we move on to a new decade in many ways. Back to you, Laura. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Over to Dr. Bhaskar then. Now, I don't know whether sort of everyone's up to date on this, but the UAE government, I was reading, has committed to invest $75 billion sovereign funds into India, as announced recently at the Expo 2020 Dubai. And the two partners have really shared this vision for clean energy as well. So can you tell us a little bit more about sort of, some of these other sectors that are very exciting for investment at the moment and have this type of very strong appeal going forward as well, Dr. Bhaskar?
Thank you very much, and I would join Deepak in congratulating the organizers. This at this time of the year must have been like herding cats, but they managed to pull it off and pull it off very well. And I would also agree with Deepak that the market is so big that you really cannot say that it just has to be one or two sectors. India is such a big, vibrant, and massive country that pretty much every sector goes. But that said, as one of your previous panelists talked about, there is definitely specific appetite from Abu Dhabi specifically to invest in India. Now, this is where I keep on telling my counterparts in various parts of the Indian government and corporates, you have to think big. You have to really think big. The financing gap that we are talking about is large. And when you're talking about large scales of investment, you need to think differently. And that's what we are encouraging. So, for example, since 2019, we have been hosting with FICCI an Invest in India conference just in ESG. Now, three of them have now happened, one in India and two in Abu Dhabi, where we brought our sovereign wealth funds and institutional funds to meet with Indian funds. That's the key thing. What we are encouraging large-scale financial institutions and firms to explore Abu Dhabi as a place to do big business. It's just not ESG. If you look at the recent announcements that have been done by Reliance, a substantial amount of petrochemicals and related matters are going to be here. Previously, our Crown Prince, as well as ADNOC people, have talked about hydrogen. So, big sectors, big amounts, big funds, those are the areas that I personally see are going to be of much interest.
Thank you so much. Well, which other sectors in India then, Deepak, do you think are the most up and coming then? What's gaining traction then?
Thank you, Laura. I think I'd set myself up to that question. So let me walk you down with that list of 24. Let's start with food processing. Big sector, one of the highest interactive sectors on this corridor. And the reason why I'm also very optimistic about and encouraged about this one is, apart from the fact that it has received the largest level of interest from investors from the UAE, is also because India is a very strong food security partner. And that's where this partnership, as I see going forward, is going to take on. Oil and gas has always been the traditional one. We see that encouraging and getting into more, and I'm seeing a level of innovation happening on that. Construction, big one. Not just the Indians which are doing the construction in the UAE, but we are seeing UAE, and we had Mr. Dasgupta speaking about some funds, looking at funding some of the largest infrastructure development in the world, which is currently happening in India. Medical devices, healthcare, pharmaceuticals, you had Love telling you earlier. I mean, 1.4 billion people, where else will you get a market size of that? And we are already seeing, so we had a lot of interaction of the Indians moving into UAE, but now we are seeing some investments coming in from that side. Interestingly, new one, auto and auto components, tourism and hospitality, retail and e-commerce, new sector coming up. Energy and power I've spoken about, and I'm seeing, as I told you, innovation and startup on that. IT and business processing, chemicals, and a new one which you will like, Laura. I won't ask you to take a guess because it's very evident, media and entertainment. This is a new sector which I'm seeing of interest coming in from UAE with us. Consumer goods, that's a no-brainer. I told you the largest market and, the youngest market on the planet. I have 1.4 billion today. I'll be 1.5 billion by 2025, the highest on the planet. But very interestingly, 1 billion of those will be under the age of 35. I'll be the youngest on the planet for the next 80 years. Think of the consumer market which it is creating, and that's where that comes from. Textiles and garments, education and skill development, again, the numbers take you. I'll take you to this one, very interesting upcoming one, waste management, waste to wealth, turning that around. We had Mr. Dasgupta talking about ESG and stuff. That is coming up in a big way. Electronic systems and design, that's where some of your funds and VCs are coming in, Mr. Dasgupta. Airports, metals and mining, banking. Well, we had Nitin earlier telling us how he was looking at his branch licenses, but that has always been one of the old ones. Capital goods, leather, gems and jewelry. But now I'll tell you the one which to my mind is now going to be one of the biggest pillars taking it forward. That's going to be startups and innovation. The startup story in India is the most unprecedented story in the economic history of mankind. It's a very strong statement, but let me just explain it to you. Even in the midst of this lockdown, the most unprecedented lockdown again in human history, this year, I've added a unicorn every 8 days. Every 8 days, Laura, I've added a new unicorn. And this is also a manifestation of not just a very successful governance and policy formulation and implementation, but also a reflection of the market opportunity and a reflection of the entrepreneurial spirit of India. You put these all three together and take it back to the point which the minister had made. When you're talking of a relationship, investment is about trust. And I know I'm taking a little longer, but I'll be the last point of this. Investment flows where there is trust and opportunity. Trust gets created when the three pillars are strong: people to people, business to business, government to government. And this is one of those very special relationships where these three pillars are the strongest. Add to that the unprecedented opportunity, and that's when I said this story has only just begun.
Thank you
Back
so
to you.
much. A very exciting time, and it seems like there really are endless opportunities at the moment. I don't know whether that was the same sort of climate before the pandemic, or whether has the pandemic, is this off the back of the pandemic? Has the pandemic given investors more of an appetite to sort of get back out there? What are your thoughts on that, Dr. Bhaskar? And also, tell us also a little bit more about how further funds can be unlocked, essentially, as well, and what sort of barriers stand in the way of this new comprehensive economic agreement. Maybe you could tell us a little bit more about that as well.
Sure. Well, let me start from the end. The agreement definitely is being negotiated, and I was in India last week. There were certain elements that we contributed to, and I'll talk about that in a moment. But just to add to what Deepak said, we in Abu Dhabi are not just looking at investing in India, and quite a lot of the unicorns and the tech startups have substantial amount of Abu Dhabi money. But we, for example, have signed an agreement with the Confederation of Indian Industry, and we speak at, for example, their Africa conference. We want Indian companies to become international, and Indian companies can actually get large-scale financing for their international operations. So whether we are talking about the example of Reliance that I talked about, or Policy Bazaar, et cetera, et cetera. So it's both ways. The whole point that I'm trying to make is that large-scale funding has to be mobilized. And some of the things that you would traditionally see is, where did actually India raise its funds? This is the place where you have got a substantial amount of Indian diaspora. Setting up investment funds, setting up feeder funds, setting up funds that are substantial in size, getting anchor investors just 3 hours away from India. Heck, Abu Dhabi has got Hindi as its third official language. We are also building a temple. So either you can sort of talk in Hindi, or you can talk to God directly. Both can be handled. So what I would try and say is that be ambitious. And for the large-scale investments, that's what we were looking for. The second Invest in India conference is going to be held in Abu Dhabi Global Market in Q1, where we will be inviting a restricted set of people, both from India, who are capable of absorbing some of the larger check sizes, as well as sovereign wealth funds and liquidity providers. The whole point being, we want to get to the numbers that you were talking about in terms of just the infrastructure investment and elsewhere. It's not our place to tell India where to invest. That is something that they would judge. But what we can talk about is how to mobilize those billions and billions of dollars of investment that is required.
Gentlemen, I do apologize, but I've been told we are running out of time. Sorry, final comment there. Yes, Deepak.
Yes, very quick one. And I did want to tell Dr. Dasgupta. Dr. Dasgupta, if you wanted to see where I can absorb the capital, I've got $2 trillion worth of projects. Just go to India Investment Grid and the National Infrastructure Prime. Just come on to the Invest India website. There are actual projects which are actually looking for capital as we speak. So that entire menu of options is for you. Please click onto any of them and you'll have a team supporting you to get that capital. Sorry, Laura, back to you. Thank you.
Lovely, very well said. Some great collaboration going on there. Sadly, we do have to wrap up our session. We have run out of time. It's been delightful speaking with you. Thank you so much. Yeah, you really caught us up to date on investing in a joint future. And thank you so much to Deepak Bagla and also to Dr. Bhaskar Dasgupta. Fantastic session there. Thank you so much.